As if the most glamorous city on earth hid its darkest secret in plain sight? What if a rising starlet, chasing the Hollywood dream, became the face of a nightmare that still haunts Los Angeles nearly 80 years later? Welcome back, my fellows, the place where we dive deep into the darkest mysteries and chilling true crime stories the world has ever known. We open a file that never truly closed, the case of the Black Dahlia. Picture post-war Hollywood. Neon signs buzzing, studio backlots alive with action. A city selling hope by the mile. And in the middle of it all, a young woman named Elizabeth Short, with jet black hair, a dazzling smile, and dreams bigger than the skyline. But fate had other plans. Instead of becoming a star, she became a symbol, an icon of mystery, tragedy, and the darkest side of the American dream. From the moment the newspapers screamed her nickname, Los Angeles was paralyzed. Police scrambled, the media sensationalized, and the city whispered in fear. Tonight, we'll step back into those streets, retrace the investigation, uncover the suspects, and ask the chilling question: who really killed Elizabeth Short? This is Hollywood's most enduring cold case. This is the Black Dahlia. Los Angeles in the 1940s was a city of contrasts. A glittering dream factory built on palm trees, sunshine, and neon lights, but also a place where shadows stretched long and deep. America had just emerged from World War II. Soldiers returned home, industries boomed, and Hollywood promised escape from the trauma of war. On the silver screen, stars like Humphrey Bogart, Rita Hayworth, and Veronica Lake dazzled audiences with tales of romance, adventure, and mystery. The studios painted a world of perfection. But beyond the studio gates, reality was far less glamorous. The streets of Los Angeles told a different story. In smoky nightclubs and cheap motels, broken dreams piled up as quickly as cigarette butts in ashtrays. Thousands of young women flocked to the city each year, chasing stardom. Most found only disappointment, loneliness, and the harsh reality of a city that devoured innocence. Hollywood was a machine, and it didn't care who it chewed up along the way. The atmosphere of Los Angeles in the late 1940s was pure film noir come to life. Foggy streets illuminated by flickering street lamps, detectives in fedoras leaning against black sedans, and headlines screaming about crime, corruption, and scandal. Beneath the glamour, crime syndicates, crooked cops, and predatory men thrived in the city's underbelly. And into this world stepped Elizabeth Short, and for Elizabeth, Hollywood's bright lights would soon cast the darkest shadows imaginable. In a place built on illusion, her tragic death would expose a truth no movie studio dared to film: that Los Angeles was as dangerous as it was dazzling, and not every dreamer lived to tell their story. This was the backdrop, the perfect stage, for one of the most brutal and baffling murders in American history. On the cold morning of January 15, 1947, Los Angeles awoke to a nightmare that would forever scar the city's history. At around 10 a.m., a young mother named Betty Berzinger was pushing her stroller along a vacant lot in the Limert Park neighborhood when something caught her eye. At first glance, she thought it was a discarded mannequin. The figure appeared pale, stiff, and unnaturally posed in the grass. But as she drew closer, she realized the horrifying truth. This was not a mannequin. It was the mutilated body of a young woman. The victim was later identified as Elizabeth Short, a 22-year-old aspiring actress who had been living in Los Angeles only months before her death. What made this discovery so shocking was not just the fact that she had been murdered. It was the gruesome, almost theatrical manner in which her body had been displayed. Elizabeth's body had been severed completely in half at the waist, with surgical precision. Both halves were carefully arranged on the ground, just inches apart. Her skin appeared drained of blood, giving her an almost ghostly white appearance. Her face had been mutilated with what would become known as the Glasgow smile: deep, gruesome slashes extending from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating a haunting, permanent grin. Her body showed signs of torture. Rope marks on her wrists, ankles, and neck suggested she had been bound and held captive before her death. There were also indications that her killer had cleaned and scrubbed her body before abandoning it, erasing any immediate trace of evidence. The scene stunned police officers, and it wasn't long before news reporters swarmed the neighborhood. Within hours, the story spread across Los Angeles and soon the nation. Newspapers seized on the lurid details, splashing sensational headlines across their front pages. One paper dubbed her the Black Dahlia, a nickname inspired by her dark hair, her penchant for black clothing, and a then-popular film titled The Blue Dahlia. The murder instantly became a media circus. Photographers snapped pictures of the crime scene, crowds gathered out of morbid curiosity, and speculation about the killer began almost immediately. The brutality of the crime, combined with the mystery of Elizabeth's life, made the story irresistible to the public. Police launched what would become one of the largest investigations in Los Angeles history, but the grotesque nature of the crime set it apart from anything detectives had ever encountered. This was not just a killing, it was a statement, a message written in blood and cruelty, left for the entire city to see. The discovery of Elizabeth Short's body wasn't just the start of a murder investigation. It was the birth of a legend, one that would haunt Los Angeles for generations to come. Before she became infamous as the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short was simply a young woman with dreams, flaws, and a longing for something more. To understand why her death captivated the nation, it's important to first understand who she was in life. Elizabeth was born on July 29, 1924, in Boston, Massachusetts, the third of 5 daughters. Her childhood wasn't easy. During the Great Depression, her father abandoned the family, leaving her mother to raise the girls alone. This early instability may have fueled Elizabeth's restless nature and desire for escape. From a young age, Elizabeth stood out for her beauty. With her pale skin, jet black hair, and striking blue-green eyes, she had a natural allure that drew attention wherever she went. Friends later recalled that she was soft-spoken, polite, and somewhat reserved, but she carried herself with a kind of grace that hinted at Hollywood star quality. As a teenager, Elizabeth struggled with asthma and respiratory issues, which led to several surgeries. Doctors suggested she spend time in warmer climates, and she began traveling between Massachusetts and Florida. This nomadic lifestyle seemed to foreshadow her later years. Elizabeth was always searching for the next opportunity, the next place where she might belong. Her ambitions pointed squarely toward Hollywood. Like thousands of other young women of her generation, Elizabeth dreamed of becoming an actress. She moved to Los Angeles in the mid-1940s, hoping to find work in film. However, the reality was harsher than the dream. She never landed any credited acting roles and often supported herself through waitressing and occasional modeling jobs. Elizabeth was also known for her distinctive style. She often wore tailored black outfits, sheer blouses, and red lipstick, which gave her an air of mystery. This wardrobe choice would later inspire the press to dub her the Black Dahlia. The discovery of Elizabeth Short's mutilated body on January 15, 1947, launched one of the largest manhunts in Los Angeles history. The brutality of the crime shocked even seasoned detectives, and the public's hunger for answers only intensified the pressure on the LAPD. From the very beginning, the investigation faced challenges. The crime scene itself was compromised. Before police could properly cordon off the area, dozens of reporters and curious onlookers had already trampled through the vacant lot where her body was found. Any potential clues, such as footprints or tire tracks, were quickly lost. This mistake haunted the investigation for years. The LAPD assigned over 50 detectives to the case, making it their top priority. Hundreds of people were questioned, and leads poured in from across the city. Some witnesses claimed to have seen Elizabeth in the days before her death, while others offered tips about suspicious men she may have known. Yet for every potential lead, there seemed to be a dead end. Then came the media. Newspapers, hungry to sell copies, sensationalized the case to extraordinary levels. It was the press. The killer himself seemed to taunt authorities. Within days of the murder, the Los Angeles Examiner received a chilling letter signed, "The Black Dahlia Avenger." It included personal items belonging to Elizabeth, her birth certificate, photographs, and an address book, proving that the sender had access to her possessions. The note promised more killings if the police did not pursue him aggressively, though no further murders linked to the case were confirmed. The LAPD quickly became overwhelmed. The public grew increasingly anxious. The sheer savagery of the murder convinced many that a sadistic predator was roaming Los Angeles. Parents kept a closer eye on their daughters, while the city's nightlife briefly dimmed as fear spread. Yet the fascination never waned. If anything, the grotesque nature of the crime only made the public crave more details. Ultimately, the LAPD faced mounting criticism. Some accused them of being too cozy with the press, leaking details to keep newspapers satisfied rather than focusing on the case. Others believed corruption and incompetence allowed the killer to slip away. Despite tireless work, the case grew colder with each passing month. The investigation into the Black Dahlia murder remains one of the most infamous failures in American law enforcement, a haunting reminder of how chaos, media frenzy, and flawed policing can bury the truth. As weeks turned into months, the Black Dahlia investigation became less about following solid evidence and more about chasing shadows. A few suspects stood out above the rest. Perhaps the most infamous was Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy physician with a disturbing reputation. Hodel's name surfaced years later when his own son, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective, accused him of being the killer. Steve uncovered damning circumstantial evidence, including photographs of a woman who resembled Elizabeth Short and notes in his father's handwriting that matched the Black Dahlia Avenger letters. More chillingly, George Hodel had been investigated in the 1940s for other violent crimes, including the suspected murder of his secretary. During surveillance, police recorded Hodel making cryptic statements such as, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They can't prove it now." While never formally charged, Hodel remains one of the most convincing suspects to this day. Then there was Mark Hansen, a Hollywood nightclub owner and landlord with ties to Elizabeth. Short had briefly lived in one of his boarding houses, and Hansen was known to have been infatuated with her. Some accounts suggest she rejected his advances, which could have fueled resentment. When Elizabeth's address book was found among items mailed by the supposed killer, Hansen's name was inside, though this alone did not tie him to the crime. Still, many considered him a viable suspect, particularly because of his connections to the entertainment industry, a world often linked to both glamour and scandal. Beyond these three, the suspect list included an eclectic mix of figures: drifters, ex-boyfriends, aspiring actors, and even anonymous confessions mailed to newspapers. At one point, detectives pursued the possibility that the killing had been the work of a serial murderer, given similarities to other unsolved crimes of the era. Yet every lead seemed to fizzle out, leaving investigators with nothing but speculation. What made the case so difficult was that many of the suspects seemed plausible. Each had motive, opportunity, or eerie coincidences connecting them to Elizabeth. Yet, in the absence of forensic technology like DNA testing, the LAPD was left with circumstantial evidence that could never withstand trial. In the end, the sea of suspects only deepened the mystery. Elizabeth was not just a victim of a horrific crime. She was a young woman with ambitions, struggles, and hopes for the future. In remembering her, we must look beyond the sensationalized headlines and the lurid tabloid stories. She was someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone who believed in a brighter tomorrow. Her life was tragically reduced to a headline, and her murder became a puzzle that has never been solved. The haunting mystery lingers because it sits at the intersection of glamour and horror, beauty and brutality, truth and speculation. Each unanswered question invites another theory, another investigation, another retelling. Perhaps that's why the Black Dahlia remains more than just a cold case. It has become a cultural mirror, reflecting our fascination with mystery, crime, and the shadows that lie behind the spotlight. As we close the story, we're left with a reminder. Behind every famous case, behind every headline, lies a human being whose story deserves dignity and remembrance. If you found this deep dive into the Black Dahlia case thought-provoking, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow mystery lovers, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue exploring the darkest, unsolved mysteries of history. And who knows, maybe one day, The truth behind the Black Dahlia will finally come to light.